I saw a post on somewhere, Instagram or whatever, the other day, and this dude had made 47 funnels in 5 minutes. And man, he was stoked. Screenshots and stuff. The funnels are beautiful, by the way. And first thing that came to mind was this poor dude has just basically created 47 more ways to lose money. Because if you can't make one funnel work, then 47 more of them is just going to make everything worse, And here's what's interesting about that. So let's say you're using AI now and you've seen all the videos, like I did this in 2 seconds and now I have 4 billion AI agents or whatever. And you're using it and you're not having this miraculous result that's expected. It's not that AI doesn't work. The tool's not the problem. It's the strategy that's the problem. And here's what I mean by that. So AI can make you really, really, really productive at doing the wrong stuff. It can make 47 different funnels in 5 minutes or whatever. It can do anything, really. It's amazing. And if you're not using the right strategy and the right just fundamental principles when you're messing around with it, essentially what it's going to do is make a whole lot of stuff that just shows you how to fail faster. And I don't think you want to do that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you 5 fundamental marketing principles that have always worked, and then how to use AI to make those principles work on your behalf. So let's get into it. So the first principle is focus. And here's what I mean by it. Figure out what you want to accomplish and stay unbelievably focused on using AI to help you accomplish that one thing. Don't go and build 47 different funnels or whatever. Find the thing that you want to accomplish and then just do that relentlessly. And I know it sounds really simple, so I'll tell you a story that illustrates the point. I have an AI software company called oJoy.ai, and it's going pretty great, really, and my initial focus was, let's have a nice, steady, consistent growth, getting people to use oJoy. It had a plan, stuck to the plan, sweet. And then I noticed that the people who would take a trial and become customers, which is 58% of the people, more of them would quit being customers in their first month than I wanted. And I was like, this is weird. I would like that to be better. So I wanted to fix that perceived problem, So lost focus on just, hey, get customers at this consistent, steady rate and everything will be cool. And I just intensely focused on, oh my God, we have this problem. I've got to fix it. So instead of sticking to the thing that was working, I dedicated 2 months, solid months of all this research and just constant crunching of data to try to figure out, are we attracting the wrong types of users? Is there something wrong with the product? Why are people leaving in their first month? Turns out that all these things that I was worried about and trying to figure out were totally wrong. The real issue was that people would use it and a lot of them would get everything they thought they needed and they thought they were finished. I'm glad they were happy, but they'd schedule a month's worth of content or whatever, and they'd be like, all right, I'm good, and I'll see you later. So I stopped worrying about that, and then I resumed focusing on the thing I should have focused on, and I added a new element, which was, okay, how do I make this something that they want to continually use every day? I could try to come up with a feature that they would just love using, and they would kind of become addicted to, but not as evil as it sounds. And we ended up building it. So we created this feature inside of oJoy. It's called Chief Revenue Officer. And essentially what it does is it analyzes your business, finds the one thing to do right now, what's the lowest hanging fruit that'll bring in revenue, builds you the campaign and everything. You go run the campaign, and then you come back and you tell it what happened, and then it looks at the results, analyzes all your business again, and then it tells you what to do next. Now they're stoked. And that feature is now the second most popular feature on our platform. The first popular feature is still the thing that writes stuff. And it leads into the second principle, which is always focus on the vital few. So the term vital few comes from the Pareto Principle. I learned it from the 80-20 rule by Richard Koch. Great book. I have 80-20 tattooed on my wrist. It's so important. And the whole idea is that 80% of your input, like the good stuff, comes from like just 20% of the stuff you do. And the 80% of the stuff that you're doing is kind of pointless and doesn't actually do anything for you. So if you can identify like the 20% of stuff that actually moves the needle and focus on that, then you'll have better results. Kind of common sense, really, but easier said than done, especially when it's so easy to get distracted. So to put it into context, I've been selling things online for 26 years, and I look back over the past 26 years and realize that the overwhelming majority of my income is a result of 3 activities. 1, making valuable stuff that gets people to want to join my email list. 2, sending them deadline-based offers to buy something or participate in something. And 3, human interaction in the sense of either A, selling workshops, or B, doing free workshops that are teaching people to use whatever it is that I'm selling, such as we're going to do a free 2-day workshop on copywriting, and I'll show you how to do it with oJoy. But if I'm not focusing on those 3 things and I'm focusing on all kinds of other stuff, I ain't making any money, or at least not as much as I could be doing. And when I realized that and started focusing on just those 3 things, shocker, revenue went up, stress went down, things became, pretty sweet. And as simple as it sounds, it's very difficult to actually stay focused on doing it with all the shiny objects and everything. So here's how all of this stuff ties back in with AI. You can just use AI to really figure out main things are that grow your business by just giving it all of the data about your business. Like, here's all my sales for the past year. Here's all my posts. Here are all my emails and stuff. What's working? And it'll figure that out. And then you'll be like, oh, okay, I can just do more of that. And then you just literally use AI to help you do more of that stuff. I know it sounds simple because it is simple. I can't really do complex very well. But AI is not really the issue. It is knowing where to point it. It's really more of a thinking skill than actually I'm excellent at, coding or whatever. Anyway, I guess the point of principle number 2 is use AI to figure out what works and then just do more of that consistently and focus on just doing more of that consistently. And that brings us to the 3rd principle, which is always build assets. And whenever I hear that word, I think about financial planner stuff, like stocks and bonds and houses and things like that. Those are cool. But in this context, an asset is something that you build for your business once, and it continues to bring in revenue for you for years. And it does so in a totally hands-off manner, or at least as passively as possible. And I'll give you an example. So back in 2012, I created a book, Convert 2.0, and sold it, built a little book funnel, had some upsells and stuff, all that. I used that same book funnel for 12 years. I sold it all the way up until the end of 2024 when I made the decision to focus exclusively on building oJoy. And right now, as I'm telling you this, I'm realizing I can't believe I turned the damn thing off. Why did I do that? I don't know. That was stupid. So anyway, wrote it once, built the funnel one time. It worked for 12 years. In fact, a whole lot of people who use oJoy are people that bought that book over that 12-year period. That is what I mean by an asset. So an asset could be an email sequence, it could be a webinar, it could be a book funnel or whatever, but that's the point. A thing you make once that continues to make you revenue semi-passively or totally passively for years and years and years to come. And where AI comes into play with this whole thing is you can use it to build assets at scale. And I gotta really be careful about this one, because it's really easy to hear something like AI can create assets at scale, and then our brain's like, ooh, yeah, that means I can make like 5,000 things or whatever in 20 minutes, just like everyone says on YouTube. And that is absolutely not what I mean. So there's a like particular characteristic that makes the difference between something just being and something being a true asset in your business, and that's excellence. And there's kind of a formula to it. So the first step is to use AI to create something that is as good as you can possibly make it. Like if it's a book or a video sequence or whatever it is, like really, instead of focusing on making a million of them, focus on using all of that power to make one at first and do it as the best job you can, and then put it out there and see what happens. And use AI to actually really see what happens, like measure the results, obsessively. Because a lot of times the stuff that we think is excellent and people are really going to be into and they're going to just love it, they don't. And that, you never know until you put it out there. But if it works, keep doing it, but then just use AI to create another one of those. So if I had any damn sense, I would turn my book funnel back on and then make sure it still works so it'll turn people into oJoy users. And then I would make another one that's a slightly different angle or a different topic, and then make sure it's excellent, and then use that to drive more people to become oJoy customers. Of course, I would make sure that the second thing was truly excellent because I would measure the results. So it's not about doing more. It's about doing better and then doing more of better. So it's not really a prompting skill or anything. It's really more of a thinking skill that you can adopt that will help you. So onward we go to principle number 4, and this is always move them forward. So you got a person, they're a prospect or whatever, and they're at point A, they're not your customer yet, and you want to get them to point B where they are your customer. We want to always be doing things that are moving them closer to point B. Shocking revelation, I know. But shockingly, I said shocking twice. I'm not even going to edit that out. Most people don't do it, and I don't know why, but it pays really freaking well. So if you think about it, it's reasonable to assume that our income is directly proportional to the amount of offers we make. That doesn't mean you have to have 10 million different products, by the way. You can just offer the same product to people who haven't bought it yet over and over again with different angles and stuff. And hardly anybody really ever does that. So here's a really simple and concrete way to look at it. Let's just take email, for example. You got people on your list and you're emailing them stuff, and a typical marketer is going to send promotions, every now and then or whatever, and that's great, better than nothing. But if you look at just the email marketing component, you can actually do so much better if you just look at what makes email marketing work, and AI can help you do all of this. So, all right, you send an email. Okay, well, did people open it or not? Well, if they didn't open it, then, you could send them another one because they didn't read it to begin with. All right, great. If they opened it, did they click it? If they didn't click it, then you can send them another email or even a series of emails that's like, hey man, I saw you open this, but you didn't click it. Here's why you should click. It's really pretty cool. And then of course, if they clicked it, did they buy it or not? Here's a little shocking hint. Most of the people don't. It's very rare that people just click and immediately buy. They need follow-up. So all of that stuff is an example of little things you can do that's always moving them forward based on where they are in the journey, but people don't do it. Now, because we have AI, it's really freaking easy to do. You can just take all your email stats from whatever email thingy you're using, and you can take a screenshot of them and slap them into AI and be like, hey, I need you to help me figure out where people are dropping off and how I can get them re-engaged. And it'll do that for you. And then you can be like, all right, great. Well, help me write the emails to get them re-engaged. And it'll do that for you. So again, it's not going out and making 9 million different things. It's finding this one thing. And this is just within this specific example, and just making it better. So you can do more email better, not by sending a gazillion emails to people who aren't interested, but like segmenting the list automatically and sending them the right stuff. And that's just email, but you can take it to an entirely different level. So now, if we still are in this, holding this belief that, okay, the more offers we make, then, we're probably going to make more money, even if you only have one product. Think about this for a minute. You can just slap a screenshot of your stats from email and stuff, or export your database or whatever you want to do. Give it to AI and be like, hey, find all the people who are hyper responsive, like they click everything, but they haven't bought this latest offer yet. And it'll do that. And then you can be like, all right, now help me enrich this data and look them up and find out where they are on Instagram and LinkedIn and all of that kind of stuff. And it can do it. And then you can set up, even in your browser, a little thing that'll just DM them and be like, hey, it's Frank, man. You're on my list, and I see you read the email about the thing, and I was wondering if if you have any interest in it. And now what you've done is you've reached out to your existing person on a different platform, and you're not spamming them because they already know you. They're hyper responsive, but you're just using AI to do more of stuff, but better and smarter. And the reason this is important is because most people, that sounds so lame, like a general statement like that, but whatever. Most people use AI to try to get a bigger audience of prospects, and then they just don't really do anything with the prospects they have. Don't do that. Just take the thing that you got and then maximize the hell out of that, and then go get more prospects and then put them into the system that actually works. It's going to make you more, sales, revenue, whatever. It's going to make you happier. And speaking of happiness in general, this segues perfectly into our fifth point. And this is a big one, and that is always add value. So it's really easy to take everything I just told you and read into it the following. Okay, we should just make offers all the time and, blast emails and DMs and stuff constantly until people buy our stuff. And that could work, but it works a lot better if you have already demonstrated that you can help them by having actually helped them. It makes them like you more, and it makes everything easier to sell. And plus, it's just cool. And the byproduct of adding value to people is you're creating goodwill. And, that's a thing. And I mean that literally. If you're going to sell a business and the business has a lot of goodwill, that's actually a line item on the assets of the business. So it's super important. I made up a formula about this actually years ago because it sounds smart when you have formulas, but this formula is true. Here's the formula. It's offers plus goodwill times frequency equals more sales. And the whole thing is you got to make offers and make goodwill and do that a lot. You can't just make a lot of offers. You're going to burn them out. So let me give you an example. Let's say I wanted to hold a training on how to develop the skills of thinking so you can actually do cool stuff with AI, because it's not prompting. Anyone can prompt. It is actually a thinking skill and a whole approaching skill. Anyway, let's say I want to do that. A really good way to go about that, by just having one piece of valuable content, sending people an email to it. If they click it, then automatically put them into an email sequence that tries to sell them something. You're making an offer, but only after you have created the value. Makes the offer work better. And hey, if they don't click it, just make another thing that's valuable and then repeat the process. It's easy. But there's a thing we got to keep in mind here. So earlier I mentioned that a lot of the stuff we think is cool, our readers or viewers, our audience, they might not think is cool. So it's very important that whatever it is that, we think is valuable really is valuable. And the only real way to know is to put all emotion aside and just get numbers, which is boring and awful, but that's why we have AI. So here's how to know what is truly valuable to them so you can just make more of it. Step one, it's a thinking shift. Understand that views do not necessarily equal value. View duration is a better indicator of value on things like YouTube videos, on social media reels and stuff. Same principle applies. The view duration is an indicator that they found it valuable, not the total quantity of views. So if you know that, you can just export like all of your data from Facebook and Instagram and stuff about every single post you've ever done. And you can feed it to AI along with all the data for every YouTube video you've ever done and shorts and stuff. And you can say, okay, read through all of this and find the stuff that people found the most valuable. And the way you're going to know it's valuable is whatever's got the longest average view duration in relation to the length of the original piece of content. And also, if it's a written post or whatever, instead of the amount of views, we'll judge value by the amount of engagement and sentiment in the comments. And you just say that and then hit go, and it'll tell you. And you'll be like, oh, holy crap, this is the stuff that people actually like. And to drive that point home, I'll just give you a story from my own business. So I actually measure the effect of organic YouTube stuff on my daily sales. And the way I do it is I look at the average daily sales for, that month or whatever time period from organic traffic sources. And then I look at the average daily sales from when the video was posted through like 4 days after it was posted. And I'm kind of pulling the 4-day time frame out of the air. But my theory is you post a video and then over the next 4 days, that's when it's going to get the most activity. So that's when you're going to see an uptick in, organic traffic, people typing in your domain name or whatever. And I've found that almost every time the videos with a ton of views, well, none of my videos get a ton of views, but the ones with the higher views actually don't have any correlation whatsoever to getting more customers. It's usually the ones with like 900 views or something. And it's because they're providing value that the buyer of, in this case, my software, wants. So it's a really big thing. And it's easy to freaking identify if you just use AI and say, hey, figure this out. And you just make more of that and better versions of it. And that becomes stuff that you're focusing on. And if we were to take all the stuff that I just shared with you and just kind of put a big central theme around it, it would be this. Everything that we discussed today points really at a different way of thinking. Not, what tool you should use or whatever, but really an entirely different way of thinking. So the old way, or, the current way really of thinking as it relates to AI is, okay, build a whole bunch of new stuff, and let's make 9 million pieces of social content or whatever. And that's great. But you've probably tried that already. And, you already know it's not really moving the needle much for you. A better way of thinking, at least from my experience, is to use AI to find out what actually works and then use it to find ways to do more of that and do more of that better and keep doing that. And then use it to find places in your sales process that could be improved and improve them. And if you do that, instead of doing the shiny object route, you'll probably sell more stuff. So I guess we can tie it back into the funnel guy from the beginning that made 47 funnels, or however many, I'm going by memory, but it was something like that. Like, how many of those things do you think made money? Probably none of them, because the dude couldn't even get one to make money. So well, what are you gonna do with 47 more things that don't make money? You just wasted time. He fell into the trap. And by the way, there's no them, that are trying to make us fall into a trap or something. It's our own minds, because it's so fun to do all this stuff. But the trap is using AI to make a bunch of stuff that doesn't actually do anything. So with that said, it might be time to do a little quick mental check-in. Be like, all right, am I using this incredible gift to humanity called AI and pointing this thing in the right direction? Or am I just making stuff because I saw people on YouTube making stuff and I'm like, I'll just make a bunch of cool stuff. And if it's number two, then try to avoid that and, copy the transcripts from this video or something and paste them into oJoy and be like, tell me all the things I need to be doing based on what this thing said, and then just do those and see what happens. And you'll probably have pretty good results. And as if it's any consolation, if you are using AI to make a whole bunch of stuff that's not actually doing any good, you're not alone. There was a study by MIT, and I'm going by memory. It was, I think, businesses spent $352 billion collectively on making cool stuff with AI, and 95% of those things failed to deliver any measurable results whatsoever. So it's a huge problem, and thankfully it's not that hard to fix. Anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble. And if you want me to keep covering topics like this instead of more in-depth tactical stuff, let me know, and I would be happy to. All right. Thanks for watching, man. Take it easy.